This video clip is a very brief introduction to project management. And it makes sense to start with some definitions. First of all, what is a project? More to the point, how does a project differ from regular operational work that's not a project? And when I ask that question of what is a project, what people answer is, well, they say it has activities, it has a budget, it has a schedule, it has people, maybe from different disciplines, it has objectives, it has dependencies. Yes, I say, it has all of those things, but operations also has those things. If you are operating a vegetable processing plant, processing raw vegetables, you have budgets and you have schedules. You're planning to process carrots on Thursday afternoon, and you have activities and you have people working for you. These all apply to operations as well. What we're going to do is we're going to refer to the definition of the Project Management Institute and their framework of project management. And we're going to say that a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to produce a unique product or service. So really there's only two things. It's temporary. It has a start and a finish. And you're producing something that's different. It doesn't have to be hugely different. It could be similar to the one you did 3 months ago, but there is something about it that is different. You're doing it for a different client, or you're processing something different in your project. Now, this definition is very broad. This definition could apply to me this weekend, planning to take everything out of my bedroom closet and install a closet organizer. I'm going to do it in a couple of days, and it's a project that has a start and a finish. It's going to produce a unique product or service. And I'm going to use the whole range of project management: scope management, time management, cost management. It also applies to huge endeavors lasting several years, such as Airbus or Boeing creating a new airliner. And project management is scalable this way. Project management can be done very lightly, in other words, entirely in my head, or almost entirely in my head for my closet project this weekend, or a project can be very rigorously carried out with heavy documentation, such as in larger, longer projects. Here's another definition that also comes from Project Management Institute's framework. For the definition of project management, we're applying knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. Well, what this definition tells us is that the framework of the Project Management Institute was written by a committee, not by poets. So why do we use project management? Or maybe a better question is, why should an organization use a consistent approach to project management using the well-understood processes and tools that exist for us? An organization, in many cases, may have a project to get done. They find a project manager, they assign somebody as a project manager, they provide no tools and processes. The project manager may not have previous experience managing a project, yet with the skills that that project manager has, he or she may actually organize a very good project and bring it to a great success. I suggest, though, that that organization is not going to be consistent with achieving successes following that kind of approach. That a consistent approach can help us achieve the customer requirements, the cost, and the time, not just occasionally because our project manager happened to have the right skills and things went smoothly, but it can help the organization achieve those objectives consistently. This consistent approach to project management using well-understood processes and tools also helps us coordinate across disciplines. The way that we can organize to have a team that spans across functional disciplines can help us, is very commonly used in project management, and it can help us. Project management can help us use resources productively. If people are fitting into a project where we're using the same terminology, the same framework, the same tools, the same ways of working on projects, it can help them be productive. The way that we organize for projects of borrowing people from various functional disciplines can also be productive in the use of those people resources. Organizations carry out projects in order to create change. And the organization may be reacting to change in the environment. Maybe a bank or financial institution has to introduce a new loyalty credit card because of what competitors are doing in the marketplace, and they have to do it very quickly. They can use project management to help them do it quickly. For organizations that do projects for a living, they live by doing a project. They have to earn profits. And consistent project management can help them predict what costs and schedule and what will be required, what resources are going to be required. They're going to more likely be profitable at carrying out those projects and therefore surviving. There's a number of research findings promoting the use of consistent project management approaches. William Ibbs and his team at the University of California, Berkeley have been researching quantitative answers to the question, why use project management? And they did measure, now this is very hard to measure. It's hard to measure project success. It's hard to compare the budget or the actual costs on one project in one organization to the actual cost or the budget with another project in another organization. Very hard to do. They found that there is a return on investment from an organization investing in improving its project management maturity, and that was in the range of 15 to 40%. Unfortunately, because the data is so hard to get and measure, the statistical significance of that correlation was low. Now, I mentioned improving an organization's project management maturity. Of course, project management is something that you can use yourself on projects that you're carrying out. But I also like to think of project management as something that an organization can deploy in an organized, consistent sort of fashion. And by mature project management, there are measures there are tools that are out there to help us measure the maturity of project management in an organization. And those measures usually ask the question, is your organization using these processes and tools that are in frameworks such as PMI's framework? Now, that may sound like a measure of formality rather than maturity, but they call it maturity, and let's go with that. Ibbs and his team found that if the organization has those more formal or more mature project management practices, they do have better project performance in terms of schedule and in terms of cost. They also found that the more mature project management companies had lower project management costs as a proportion of actual project costs. This seems counterintuitive. If an organization is doing more of the project management tools, you'd think it would be a higher proportion of the project budget. But actually, project management then is a lower proportion of the project budget. It's because I interpret from that using project management means more time at planning, less time at putting out fires, so leads to efficiency in the project management itself, as well as the improved project performance. Now, studies have shown that a high proportion of projects, many of these studies are in information technology. Other studies broaden it out to construction and other kinds of projects. Studies have shown that a high proportion of projects fail. Now, these studies define failure as significantly over budget by some percentage, significantly behind schedule by some percentage at the end, or don't meet requirements, or are abandoned during the project. And a PricewaterhouseCoopers study shows that 50% of these project failures is directly traceable to poor or no project management in terms of processes and tools. And that's evidenced by lack of planning, lack of good scope definition, lack of good scope control, poor estimates and schedules. A study not so many years ago by some researchers at Athabasca University, they found that project success is strongly correlated with consistent project management methods within an organization. Project Management Institute, which frankly may be a little biased toward promoting project management, but Project Management Institute has found that Standardized practices for project management used throughout an organization are correlated with projects coming in on time and within budget. Now, a little bit of history of project management. Project management's been around a long time. We can think of old projects of antiquity like the Great Wall of China, the pyramids of Egypt, or more recently the Suez Canal. I mean, these are all big projects. Obviously, they were managed. I used to say, oh, but these old projects weren't managed with the sophistication that we can apply today. Well, now that some academics and professionals are doing papers and doing research on project management of the old projects, I'm changing my tune. These were managed in a more sophisticated manner than I had thought. But nonetheless, when we're talking about project management here, we're talking about modern project management, the tools and processes that started to emerge between the 1930s and the 1950s. And these project management tools and processes came from modern management theory, such as scientific management, Frederick Taylor and his contemporaries in the 1910s. Henry Gantt was one of those contemporaries. He's best known for having produced the Gantt chart, or the bar chart that we use so commonly in schedules. He invented a lot of other tools too. And product management as practiced by Procter & Gamble. This has led to matrix management that we use so commonly in project management these days. So here's the product management example. I am working in your department. You are the advertising manager for Procter & Gamble. And you have me assigned to work for Tyson over here. He is the product manager for Crest toothpaste. So I am both working as part of a functional department, and I am working as part of a project team. Well, this is very commonly followed by projects these days. Also, the rise of systems engineering approaches to organizing and managing large, complex engineering projects, which maybe we could say started in the 1930s and went through the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Particularly aerospace and defense, particularly the United States Army Air Corps that subsequently became the U.S. Air Force. A lot of, that's where earned value, project risk management came from. Also from process plant engineering, such as Exxon and DuPont. Contributed project management techniques because they were researching in research and development departments, researching what are methods that we can use to manage our chemical and other process plants. So the United States Air Force, also the United States Navy in the 1950s, one prominent project was the Polaris missile project. On the downside, it no doubt promoted the growth of the Cold War. But we can also credit the Polaris missile project as being a very early user of project risk management and of program evaluation and review technique. That was 1956. I mentioned process plants. DuPont Chemical, they pioneered the use of the critical path method that is used very prominently today in projects. That too was 1956. Professional associations were formed in the 1960s. Now, at this time in the 1960s, and for several years after these associations were formed, project management was not quite like we see it today. It was really a coordinating discipline, a planning discipline, emphasis on planning and particularly scheduling. And now we see project management as being responsible, a project manager as having responsibility for the whole project, including the scope and the cost and the time and the people and stakeholders, etc. So these professional associations were the International Project Management Association, or IPMA. It's based in Switzerland. It has it spans the world. It has member associations from many, many countries. Also, the Association for the Advancement of Cost Engineering, we can just call them the cost engineers. Rather small organization, but quite a good list of recommended practices, very available to us, particularly for those of us who are in engineering kinds of projects for industry, particularly heavy industry, or for utilities. The Association for Project Management in the United Kingdom, actually it didn't form until 1972. And quite prominently, at least prominently for us in North America, the Project Management Institute. They too are worldwide, but they are one organization. They're not an umbrella organization like IPMA. You can see more about PMI at pmi.org, and some people are interested in their project management professional designation or credential, and they have several other credentials. And that is our very brief initial introduction to modern project management.